I have encountered a significant number of people who tell me that they absolutely swear by the practice of syringing, while I have met just as many others who argue that it is a complete and total waste of both time and money. This leads us to the inevitable question, which side is actually correct? Today we are going to have an in-depth discussion about what syringing truly is, what the actual scientific data says about it, and whether or not you should actually be implementing this practice on your own home lawn. Let us get right into the heart of the matter. Syringing is one of those specific turfgrass management terms that sounds significantly more intense and technical than it actually is in practice. It does not involve injecting any substances into the ground, nor does it mean you are feeding your lawn some kind of specialized cocktail of liquid nutrients. In its simplest form, syringing is literally just the act of misting the surface of your grass with a very light, fine layer of water. The goal is to apply just enough moisture to wet the individual leaf blades, but not enough to actually soak into the soil. Usually when we perform this, we are putting down somewhere in the neighborhood of 0.03 to 0.05 inches of water. You should think of it much like splashing cold water on your own face when you are starting to overheat outdoors. That action does not actually hydrate your body internally, but it cools your skin off just enough for you to collect yourself and keep moving. That is exactly what the practice of syringing is meant to do for turf grass, especially when that grass is baking under the direct intensity of the sun during periods of extreme heat. The ultimate goal here is not deep hydration for the root system. Instead, it is focused on achieving quick surface-level cooling. This is a technique that you will see golf course superintendents doing on a very regular basis throughout the summer months, particularly on high-value areas like putting greens, sports fields, or any other sections of turf that are under extreme environmental stress. So then, the question naturally becomes, does this practice actually work in a real-world setting? Let us start by examining the data. Scientific studies coming out of reputable institutions like Rutgers University, NC State, and the USGA show that syringing can effectively reduce canopy temperatures by anywhere from 4 to 11 degrees in hot, dry conditions. This is particularly effective when ambient air temperatures are hovering in the range of 85 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit. In one specific trial, superintendents were able to bring surface temperatures down enough to successfully prevent wilt and physiological shutdown in just a few short minutes of misting. While that sounds like a great result, this is where the situation gets a bit more complicated for the average person. The cooling effect provided by syringing is remarkably short-lived, and I am talking about a really short duration. Most of the time, the temperature drop achieved by the misting lasts for only 10 to 20 minutes at the absolute most. After that brief window, depending on exactly where the sun is positioned and how much wind is blowing, things heat right back up to their previous levels. That is precisely why some professional golf course crews find themselves syringing every single hour during the peak heat of the day. They do not do this because they want to spend their time that way. They do it because they absolutely have to if they want to keep the playing surface playable and, more importantly, alive. Now, for the vast majority of homeowners, you are not tasked with maintaining a championship-level putting green. So the question is, should you be out there every single hour with a garden hose? No, that is simply not a realistic expectation for a residential setting. And more importantly, it is generally not necessary for a standard home lawn. What you really need to know is when syringing actually makes sense for your situation and when it is just a waste of your valuable time and water. First and foremost, it only works effectively when the grass is under active heat stress. That is the specific point when the turf is visibly starting to wilt, the blades are beginning to fold inward, or the grass takes on that characteristic dullish, blue-gray color. During the midday hours under full sun, as the temperatures are climbing toward their peak, that is the window where syringing can buy your lawn a little bit of temporary relief. Now, ideally, you will want to have low humidity levels and perhaps a light breeze to help that applied water evaporate. This brings up another critical point, the mechanism of evaporation. You are not technically watering the plant in the traditional sense. You are cooling the plant by creating evaporation off the leaf surface. If there is no wind, or if it is incredibly humid, or if the sun is already going down, the water just sits there on the blades. that is exactly where you run into significant disease problems. Therefore, you definitely do not want to syringe late in the day or in the evening hours. If you do, you have now created a wet canopy that will stay damp overnight. And that is basically a welcome mat for pathogens like brown patch, dollar spot, and various other fungal issues. At this point, you might be asking a very logical question. Why not just water the lawn normally in the middle of the day if it is that hot? That is a totally fair question to ask, but here is the reality of the situation. Deep watering in the middle of the day is extremely inefficient from a resource standpoint. You can lose anywhere from 30% to 50% of that water to evaporation before it even has a chance to hit the soil surface. That data is according to the USGA and multiple university extension studies. So not only are you wasting a significant amount of water, but the small amount that does actually hit the soil ends up warming the root zone rather than cooling it. This again opens the door to potential disease. So in the end, you are just burning through water, stressing the roots, and increasing your overall disease risk, all while thinking you are helping the lawn. Now here's the part that most people tend to overlook. Is there a genuine long-term benefit to doing this? Well, that is still somewhat unclear in the scientific community. A detailed review from GCM Online highlighted that, while Syringing definitely drops surface temperatures in the moment, there is limited evidence that it actually has lasting physiological benefits for the grass. It does not improve the rooting depth. It does not change the plant's inherent drought tolerance. It does not really build any kind of long-term resilience. It is much more like a first aid tool, something you use in the heat of the moment to prevent things from getting worse, not a method to improve overall turf health over the long term. So if you are expecting Syringing to green up your lawn or solve a bigger underlying irrigation issue, you are going to be disappointed. It is not intended for everyday use, but in the right situation, it can absolutely help you avoid permanent damage when your turf is on the edge of failure. So if deep watering at noon happens to work for you and your specific setup, then go for it. I am not here to tell you how to live your life or manage your property. I am simply sharing what the research indicates and what professional turf managers around the country are actually doing in the field. Syringing is not some trendy gimmick, but it is also not a must-do for everyone either. It is just a tool in the toolbox. Use it when it makes sense for your lawn's health and skip it when it does not. But now, at the very least, you know exactly what it does, when it works, and when it is just wasting your water. Your lawn will let you know what it needs. You just have to pay close attention to the signs. Now, if you want 5 specific tips on what not to do in the middle of the summer when the heat is banging, you can watch this video right here. I will see you over there. Now get off my lawn. If this breakdown of the science behind Syringing has changed the way you look at your summer lawn care routine, please subscribe to the channel and like this video. We are digging deep into the methods and the history that others might try to overlook. Let's cultivate a better future for our landscapes together. The next treasury of lawn care knowledge will be opened very soon.